Welcome back to Dubbzi Bricks for another episode of Building the Tantive in Lego. And first of all, I'd like to say a massive thank you for all of the support and love for this build series in the last episode. I was absolutely blown away by the number of views that the video had, the number of likes, the comments, and the new subscriptions. I was absolutely blown away. It was, I think, my second most popular video following the Jabba's Palace finale. So yeah, it's so encouraging when you see that people are enjoying what you're building. So thank you so much. It means a lot to me. Anyway, I've been out of the Lego room for the last 3 weeks. I've only been back in here a couple of days. It's the 28th today, so I've only got about 3 or 4 days to get this video made, ready for the 1st of June. Normally I do my Tantive build in the evenings. However, I have got a couple of days spare now, so I'm just going to spend next 2 days solid just building on this. And the first thing I'd like to do is work on this engine section here. I want to get the support stand or the display stand all built into this so that I know that it's the right height, and then I can carry on building the engines around it. So I brought the front section here, which I still have got to amend this leg here. It needs to go this way by about 7 or 8 studs, but at least with having this here, I know exactly how high up I need to make the display stand for this. So without further ado, let's get the bricks out and let's start working out how high we need it to be. And now the fun really begins, trying to get the legs the correct height to make it central to this build here. This part here is one classing as the centre of the fuselage going this way. So it's just along the top of this plate here. So what I now need to do is work this. This is 26 bricks high at the moment. So we're going to say 13 bricks comes up to that plate basically. That should then work out level. Now I am really concerned about this section here, about moving it around once this is fully built. The engines, they're going to be quite fragile. Obviously it's going to be a circular section on here which is all plate built, using hinges, so the slightest knock and they could break quite easily. A brick built would have been a lot sturdier and possibly a lot easier. However, it would have been so part intensive, and also I don't think I would have got it as perfectly rounded as I can do with the plates and hinges. So we just have to be ultra careful when moving this. I did notice just a moment ago that this didn't look straight, and it was because a couple of bricks had popped up, and even now it's sort of like I can push down on parts to get it that little bit straighter. So I do need to make sure that I'm making this as strong as possible the whole way out throughout the build. As you can see here, this has got it's loads of pillars, which they're not the strongest design. However, I am hoping that once I brick built the walls around the edges here to help keep it all together, it's going to strengthen it up with the plates and everything else on there. So I might just need to put a few more Technic beams in there, which is quite easy to do. Anyway, without further ado, let's carry on working out exactly how many bricks high the legs are going to be. Then we can move this section here out of the way and carry on building on this part. And work has begun on the display stand for this engine section, and I'm just hoping that it's going to be large enough, strong enough. We can extend the size of this quite easily. So this is the actual footprint of the base, so that will go up like so. And if I need to extend it on either end or even on this part here, I can quite easily do so. Now I'm using the same techniques I've done on the fuselage, where I'll build brickwork out from this section here because the studs are pointing downwards, put a tile on there, build from this up as well, and that'll be connected to this Technic brick here, tile on top of it. There'll be snot bricks along the side, and then I'll plate it together on all 4 sides, and then that will keep everything all compressed together. It's worked perfectly on the fuselage. There's no reason at all why it won't work on here. Now I was just about to start building all the brickwork on here, but I was thinking actually what I probably need to be doing is actually building the engines on the center section here, as they're going to be going around this display stand. So it's going to be probably a lot easier for me to build those now rather than having the display stand in the way. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to flip this up so that these are pointing upwards. These are the bottom engines, so I'm going to start work on them, just getting the framework all ready. And there are the 4 engines all ready for the cylinder to be put around them. But first of all, we need to mount them to this section just here. Now, the parts I was going to be putting over this, the slopes that go up and then a bit at the top, that was all going to be an even number. However, these are odd numbers. There are 3 studs wide just here. And then obviously these parts here are an odd number as well. So I just need to work out exactly how I'm going to go about doing it on here. Do I make the frames here an odd number, or do I come up, we'll put them on jumper plates. Just need to work that out. I need to make sure though that they're attached to this really sturdily, as they're going to be hanging down. So I need to make sure they're not going to just drop off sort of like a couple of weeks down the line once I've added all of the weight to it. But anyway, let's start experimenting with how we're going to attach the engines to the actual framework here. And here we have the first engine attached to the bottom of the frame, should I say, because this is the bottom of the vessel. You have to remember that. This is very wobbly at the moment, but I'm not too worried about that, as there's going to be a lot of support around this. There's going to be brick built out parts on the back here. We're going to have some supports coming at an angle down there towards the centre structure as well. So it all should work out absolutely fine. Now, I did have to amend this part here of the framework, as the slope was coming up and it was just going to hit it too early on. So I'm hoping now that I have got it just about right. But yeah, there's a lot of trial and error going on with these engines. They're so complex in regards to the techniques being used just to keep it all compacted together. And it's mainly down to the fact that we've got reverse studs on here. So these studs here are pointing down, which is causing problems. If they were all pointing in the same direction, this whole technique would have been so much better, so much easier. But we are getting there slowly but surely. It's taken a lot longer than I was anticipating. I've been at this all day today, and all I've managed to do is get that one engine attached on there. So yeah, very slow process at the moment, but I'm sure as we go along, we've learned from this one, so the other three should be a lot quicker. The only problem is, once again, running out of pieces very, very rapidly. And again, it's more of these lift arms. I could have sworn that I had ordered a whole load, but where they are, I don't know in this Lego room. But yeah, we'll see what we can find out. But it would be nice to get all four of these engines attached on here and start getting the actual framework around it all attached as well. And that's the bottom two outer engines all in place. And I'm now going to start work on the inner two here. Now, they're going to be a fraction lower. Obviously, this is upside down at the moment, so it's going to look higher. But yeah, we'll just get those in place. But the list of parts I need is just absolutely insane. I never realised how part intensive this build was going to be when I started it. I've still got to do the opposite of the slope here down the bottom and on both those sides. And I've got nowhere near of these lift beams as I mentioned before. But I think I have got enough to get these engines all in place along the top here. Once I've done that, I can then start building the slope parts that go over the top of it, the housings on there, and then we'll be ready for doing the cylinders on the back. But yeah, it's all good fun. Trying to get the everything perfectly in place is proving quite the challenge. But at least once I've got these all in place, I can then also start work on the support stand here. Whether I actually get that put in on this update or not sure, but it would be nice to do so. And it's always nice when you start to see filler brick and filler plate covered over with the final cover. Now, this isn't the final effect. This is what I'm going to be putting all of the finer details on, the greebling, the tiling. But at least now I've got to this stage, I can start working on the paneling that goes around the sides of the engines here. And the three legs here, they're going to be actually integrated into the engines, I think. So this one certainly is. The slope's going to be going up and it's going to be hitting this part. So I've got to get creative with that. And again, on this one here, there's going to be a small gap between the two. But I've got a feeling that both sides of this are actually going to be hitting the leg there. So again, it might end up that part of it's built into it, or I just build around it. But we'll try and find a solution. Where it's underneath the ship, it's going to be quite easy to get around the problem, I would have thought. But yeah, I mean, the amount of pieces I've used in this update so far is ridiculous when you see the four engines just there, and I think I've got to make another 4 of those. So yeah, we've got to start calculating what parts we need to order in. But anyway, let's start working out how we're going to do these slopes on these parts just here, and I'll check back in once I've done so. And I have to say, this has been very taxing trying to get this all clipped together really sturdily, getting it at the right heights. The ones in the centres are higher than the ones on the ends here, making sure that it's lined up correctly in the middle of the ship here. There was a couple of moments where I was umming and ahhing whether or not this one and the other side were in the correct position, or whether it needed to be more over to this side. But I've decided that I'm going to leave it where it is, as it is perfectly connected to the structure underneath. If I move it over this way, it causes a lot of problems. There's not the Technic beams below it to be able to give it a nice sturdy connection. So if it's not lined up correctly and it does need to come over by one stud, what I'll do is I'll make the cylinder sit on the back there. I'll move it over that way somehow. I believe when I put the circular part around this, there's a brick on both of those snot bricks there. So what I could do, if I do need to bring it over, I'll put 2 bricks on this side and no brick on that side, and then that'll bring it over, and then that should, fingers crossed, solve the problem. But all in all, I'm pretty confident that we're on the right track with how this is coming together. I hope so, because I really don't want to have to take this apart. Now, what we're going to be doing now is concentrating on the engine housing on this side just here, and I want to do a snot technique on this side, so it'll be plated off so I can tile over it, put all of the greebling details on there. The back wall will be brick built, and on this side the majority of it will be brick built as well. Now the slopes, the bit that comes up sort of like the panel that'll be here where the slope part is, that'll probably be a snot technique as well, as there's quite a few details on the bit on the actual ship on that part as well, so I want to be able to have that option available to me. So without further ado, let's get some bricks, plates, snot bricks out and all the other good bits, and let's start working on the housing. And here we have the side panel for the engine, and I've made it so that it is currently 4 plates thick. Once I tile it, that'll be obviously the 5th level, and the gap here is 2 studs. So once the tiles are on there, it'll be flush with this edge to give it that seamless look on there. So that's the reason I've gone for this technique, and I've decided I'm going to be doing the same on all 4 of the engines. So both sides, it will be that same way. Now, this obviously does mean I'm using considerably more pieces than need to be. If I was just doing brick built, I could do white brick walls on there, and I wouldn't have to then put the 4 levels of plate and also the tiles on the side of that as well. However, it's just going to give me that little bit more room for doing extra details on here. So yeah, that's the reason I've gone down this route, and hopefully it is the right way to go about doing so. But anyway, let's attach this onto the side and see how it looks. And there we have the panel all attached to the snot bricks, and it's certainly feeling like I'm going down the right technique by doing it this way. There will be studs exposed on these wedge plates here, so it'll be those 3 studs there, and then the first 3 on each row. The rest of it I can tile around, so I use the 3x2 wedge plates on here as opposed to the 6x3s that I've originally used. I don't mind having the occasional studs on there because it does remind people that this is Lego, because everything else is going to be pretty smooth on here, or hopefully it will be. What I'm going to do now is just mock up one of the cylinders to go around the back of the engine just to make sure it all lines up perfectly. Once I know that is the case, and I can then work out whether or not I can move the cylinder over, I can then work on the other side of the engine just there. And there we have the skeleton of the cylinder on the back of the engine all in place. And there will be plates connecting these all together, so it's like one massive tube on there. I've just used these 3x3s on the top here, just purely to give me, to make sure the shape's correct, basically. So we'll plate that all off. I need to get loads of filler plate in to do that, so fingers crossed I have some long ones on the pick brick wall. They very often have some, I think it's 12x1 plates on there, so yeah, hopefully we'll be able to get some of those. Now, with this, I still need to work out how I'm going to put the skin on there so it looks seamless, so there's very few gaps, if any at all, on there. So I will be experimenting with that. But you can see on here, I've had to manipulate where it is actually on the support structure here. On this side, we've got 2 bricks connecting it. On that side, it's 1 brick and a plate, or the equivalent of 1 brick and a plate. I've also brought it down by 2 studs, and that's just to make it central to this part here. Now, I couldn't lower this down any further, as it's resting on 2 Technic bricks which have got tiles on top of them to reverse the studdage on there. So that was as low as I could get that onto the framework. So yeah, it doesn't matter that it's connected this way on these parts here. The top here will also be connected to that part there, and I'll put some bricks between these 2 as well, so that will make it nice and strong once we get around to doing those engines. And doing these engines is going to be a very time consuming thing once we get around to doing them in their entirety. But at least now we know that this is the correct size, it's all in place, and now I can carry on building the front slope section of the engine. And there is the next snot wall all in place, ready to be plated off, and I'm running so low on filler brick. This isn't something that I was anticipating this early on, but yeah, like this entire mock, it is just swallowing the bricks up here. So I have got to go to Dublin tomorrow. I'm going to go pick my wife up from the airport, so whilst up there, I'm going to pop into the Lego store and pick up a load more of the filler bricks, some more plates for the engines. I'm going to get some 2x3s as well as the 3x3s, which I've already got there. I need some 4x2 plates. There's a whole host of bricks I need, as well as some of the 2x4 bricks, so I can carry on with doing the support stand on here. Now, I was hoping to get the support stand all built up in this update. However, I think it's going to be a lot better to get these engines all built now, and then I can flip it back over onto the other side there. Another thing that will be worthwhile doing is actually plating this area off here, or bricking this area off, sorry, which is something that I was going to be doing. I was hoping to do this update, but these engines have just taken so much longer than I was expecting. But yeah, this is so much fun, trying to get my head around all of them, the math with where the engines actually go. Is everything the right size? And yeah, an exciting journey this is turning out to be. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this update. If you have, please remember to give us a big thumbs up. If you haven't already done so, please consider subscribing to the channel and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any future content on the channel. And if you know anybody I actually think will be interested in building the Tantive in Lego, if you could share the channel with them, it'd be much appreciated. Anyway, thanks for popping by, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.